Hi, so welcome back to episode 6 of Still Our Eyes podcast. And my name is Orla McKeating. My pronouns are she, her. And I'm so excited to have retired boxer, podcaster, comedian and local legend Tommy McCarthy on the show today. Tommy is like an esteemed podcaster. So I was watching loads of your clips this week and was trying to see how you do it and how you do stuff. And it's so natural to you, isn't it? I need today for chats, I needed to write things down. But for you, it just feels like...
Well, we've been doing it now, I think it's come to the 3rd year maybe. But we, in the beginning too, it's episode 6, we talking points too. Mm-hmm. And even people have complained about me being on the phone all the time. But
on your podcast?
On a podcast. But it's I have notes, just talking points on my phone. So... You need to know what you're talking about, don't you?
I think, because there's so many, you are, personified nearly what I'm obsessed with in terms of, identity, Irishness, blackness. I have a mixed race son. And, I remember first, I've talked about it a little bit, but, I never worried about raising a black child. It was all about being a single mum, because being raised as a Catholic in BT9 in Belfast, you didn't have sex and you definitely didn't become an unmarried mother. So, whenever I lived in Belgium and I moved home, the relationship ended and it was awful. But I never once thought, I'm going to be a parent to a black son. I only thought I'm going to be a single mum. I feel like I've let down my family, all of that. And then... and there was nearly, to be totally honest with you, and this is really cringe to admit, but the fetishization of mixed race kids as well, and it's come on a lot in terms of the Kardashians, it's kind of cool to have your black child. It's always
been that way, from when I was young. I think it's always been that way. I remember being a teenager and in the park and seeing an odd mixed race kid and people going, I want one,
What does that come from?
I don't know, I don't know.
So then what I noticed, it's nuts, isn't it? But then what I noticed, so Elliot is 12 now, right? He's first year. So he went from people literally stopping us in the street and being he is absolutely stunning, Ocky's gorgeous, Ocky's lovely, to felt like overnight, he gets followed in the shops, he got profiled in security, all of those things that as a parent of a black child, other parents listening or watching will get it, you'll definitely get it. But it's that level of what world can you go from being the cutest, most beautiful thing that stops traffic to a threat to society? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, no doubt there is racial profiling goes on in shops and in the world. I think as well, what could play a part is just the fact that he's gone into being a teenager as well. So when teenagers are 9 times out of 10 up to no good, so.
And here, do you think there's an element of when we're aware of the potential threat, or we're more hypersensitive? We'll never know if that would happen if he was a white kid, but do you think as parents who know...
It does happen to white kids as well, but I know when I was a teenager growing up, I always felt that when we were as a group, my white friends were all of us were getting watched and followed about, if we went into the shop, but I always felt more of a spotlight on me because I was the only black one. So if anything ever happened, that's why I always tried to stay out of trouble throughout my whole life, really, because if anything happened, it would go, it was all him and the black fella. So everyone would know it was me straight away if there was a group and had the big tall black ones of them.
Because you stood out, as opposed to because you were
everything is always going to be come back to me, do you know what I mean? So I've done my best to lead a problem-free life.
How's that going for you?
Pretty good.
Good. And here, Tommy, so tell me about then your own roots. So you were brought up in West Belfast. Tell me the Tommy story in
So my father is from here, from Lenadoon. Grandparents, I'd say this to everyone, I'm a generational Lenadooner. Grandparents, parents, me, my kids. But I was born in London. My father, he went to London to work. Met my mother. Then I had me, but I got brought home at like 5 weeks. As soon as I was fit enough to go on a plane, my daddy brought me home to get christened up in Oliver Plunkett. And then, so I just spent my whole life back and forward between London and Lenadoon. And then my mother passed away when I was 7. So I came full time to Lenadoon then. And I lived with my grandparents up there. But it was still the same back and forward between, just the opposite way. And still now to this day, try and get over to London as much as possible, because I don't have any brothers or sisters. And the bulk of my family, or not the bulk, but like all my family live in London. My grandparents, all my aunties, my uncles, all my cousins on my mother's side, they all live there. So I would have been very close to that side of the family. Especially my mommy was sick before she passed, so she was in hospital, and I would have been staying with all my aunts. So have a really good relationship with all my cousins. They were more like siblings, so it was very important for me, and still important now to maintain that bond. So it was spent my life going back and forth between London and Lenadoon. Grew up in Lenadoon. That was the only, obviously, I was the only black kid in Lenadoon. There was actually another girl, actually. So there was us two. And everyone thought that we were brother and sister for a while. And then I carved out my own identity, and everyone knew me in. And so I had a good childhood growing up in Lenadoon. Like I say, in the 2000s, late 90s, 2000s, Belfast as a whole wasn't that diverse. It's not overly diverse now. Like there's probably about 10 or 20. I'm gonna say more closer to 10 black and mixed race kids in the school that I went to, where my kids go to now. And people go, fuck, there's loads there, there's loads of them. But
now that is, or before?
Like people, but when I went, it was me and this other girl. And when she left, her name was Vicky. When Vicky left, went into secondary school, it was just me in. She was a couple of years older than me. And then when I went into secondary school, I was the only black kid for a few years. But like I say, not overly diverse, or not diverse at all. But I had a good childhood. Everyone accepted me. Everyone, I was popular. I did experience racism, but I didn't get bullied. I didn't get left out. And anyone who would have called me racial names or anything, it was usually behind my back. Someone would have told me that such and such said this. So yeah, I had a great childhood. Love Lenadoon. Proud to be from Lenadoon. It was very, very welcoming, very warm upbringing. The problems that I experienced was when I left the community. So if I played a football match outside of the area, you're meeting people from other areas. They would have been, threat, because they didn't know me, obviously. When I went to secondary school, it wasn't briefly, there was a bit of a thing, because you're meeting people from all different areas who never knew me. So there was we bit of goggling, but I quickly established myself again, because I was always good at sports. And then once I became a champion boxer as a kid, then it's easier to get accepted as well. But yeah,
how'd you get into boxing? Did you always play it?
Nah, you don't play boxing, or
sorry, do boxing? What do you do? Box?
No, that's
not a game. Boxing is not a game.
That's the saying. You don't play boxing. But no, I always was a casual fan of boxing.
Right.
My daddy was, and I would have, when I was very young, would have liked Chris Eubank, Frank Bruno, and then when I got older, Lennox Lewis. That was my favorite boxer in the world. And then Floyd, I started boxing then. I remember watching Lennox Lewis v Mike Tyson. And what year was that? I might have been, maybe I'd already started boxing at that time, but Lennox Lewis was the guy who I just looked up to big time. And then my daddy worked with a boxing coach, and he says my son wants to join. His name is Shamie Deeds. So Shamie brought me to the club, and then that was it.
And what age was that?
11, just 11 going on 12.
And so it's kind of full circle, isn't it? Because didn't you fight, not play, with Chris Eubank's son? No.
No, so Chris Eubank's nephew is Chris Eubank's nephew. Me and him became friends through Michael Conlon.
Yeah.
No, actually, he was already Michael Conlon's friend, and then me and Harlem Eubank, me and him kind of connected online and we became friends. But then my best friend who I do the podcast with, Tyrone, he fought Harlem. So, which was like, it wasn't a fight that I wanted to happen because Tyrone's my best friend who I grew up with, and Harlem's like my friend, and he was on the podcast and all. Tyrone was away one time and Harlem's here. He filled in for Tyrone, so it was like any other fight, but you know, business is business. So.
Yeah, exactly. Who won?
Harlem.
Did he? So, see, in boxing, are you going in with a full "I'm going to destroy you" mentality? Can you be mates with someone you are boxing?
Yeah. Like
that must be hard to separate.
You have to go in with a killer
Yeah.
instinct, but it's not like you're just gonna go in just crazy and reckless. There's weeks and months of preparation of years basically trying to refine your skills, and then go in and execute a game plan. But obviously you want to do damage, but there's so much. There's a science to boxing. And he said about fighting friends. Like my last fight was against a guy who me and him's been friends from like the age of 14, and that was weird for me, because you know the press conferences, you're going and you're talking shit and stuff, and I didn't want to do it because he's my mate. But everyone was saying, you better say yes and say that and say this, and I was like, I'm not saying anything because he's my mate. I like him, and it just felt weird fighting him. But I don't know if he felt the same way, but I don't know, maybe my heart's too big or something.
Your heart can never be too big. No one's heart can be too big. And then, so you talked a wee bit about like the role models that you had. Were there any other, like, especially on the island of Ireland, were there any other role models that you had that looked like you, or was that a thing, do you think?
So yeah, we were saying about my background. So I'm Jamaican. My mother's side of the family's Jamaican, so I'm Jamaican background. And Lennox Lewis, he, like, I feel like I identified with him so much because he was born in London, raised in Canada, but he was Jamaican, and he rapped for Jamaica so much. And you know, I read his book, and I actually met him when I was 14. It was just like it was mad how it just happened. He came to Belfast, but I remember like he was saying the man with a passport everywhere but belongs nowhere, because he was saying he was trying to be British. He was saying I was born here, but the Brits didn't really accept him. The Canadians, he kind of didn't want to be Canadian. He represented Canada in the Olympics, and then he was Jamaican. So I was just like, I felt, well, I'm Irish, and like I'm so proud to be an Irishman, but I'm representing for Jamaica too. But you can't get away from it, because growing up and being a minority here, it's like, where are you from? I'm from London. No, but where are you really from? Like, well, I was born in London. No, but where are you actually from? Like, fuck, I'm from Jamaica.
And then
But who I looked up to, on the island of Ireland as a kid was Darren Sutherland.
Right.
So rest in peace, Darren Sutherland. He was a few years older than me, and he was the first ever Irish Olympian, non-weight Irish Olympian. He was a boxer, he was a middleweight, went to the Beijing Olympics, and he went and won a bronze medal. But he was mixed race. He was, his father was from St. Vincent, and I think he was born in Dublin, but spent his early life in London, in Tottenham, and then I moved to St. Vincent. So I remember when my friend Anthony Kiketzi's world champion, he went down to Dublin to train on the Irish team, and he came up and he says, "There's some black guy down there, and he's beating up Andy Lee. He's American." I was like, "Jeez, I haven't seen I don't know any black guys involved in Irish boxing." Then I got on to the national team, so I went down and I seen him, and he started talking, but it sounded like American to everyone else. But I was like, "Nah, he sounds like he's from the Caribbean," because he had like such a mix-up accent, and so me and him started talking, and it's just like kind of, I think it is important to have someone who you can identify with and look up to. So he kind of took me under his wing, and I just really looked up to Darren Sutherland, and that's the guy who I wanted to aim to be like. So I would have been probably like 15 when I met him, and he might have been like 24, 25. But like from when you're 15, you're looking at someone in their 20s. They're a big man, and he was so professional, and he was brilliant at boxing, and used to just give me loads of tips and spar with me and stuff. And he was gonna go on. He was gonna be one of the greatest Irish boxers ever. But sadly, he took his own life, and it was shocking and unfortunate. But that was the guy who I looked up to.
That's so sad, isn't it? Did you know that he was struggling with mental health?
No, no one knew, because he was always so positive and professional, and he turned professional and he moved to London, and no one knows what people are dealing with, do they?
They never do, Tommy. I'm so sorry to hear that, and about your mum as well. Do you think what impact did your mum's death have on you at that age, do you think? Because it sounds like, and it's something that I think we've lost in loads of ways, like you grew up with a community, like you grew up with a village, and isn't that class? Because you did have your Irish side and your London Jamaican side.
It was in my early life, when living with my mummy, like my grandfather is the leader of a church. He's a pastor in a church. So he went to London as part of the Windrush generation, not actually on the Windrush ship. Like, some people go, well, did your grandma go on that wind? Or what boat did it go on? It's like, no. It's like, my granny got the plane to London.
No.
But the church, for them, was a place, like a real West Indian stronghold. So it's all Jamaicans and Trinidadians, but in London, the bulk of the Caribbean population is Jamaican. So I would have been heavily like going to church. All my aunties were all church singers. Everyone, just a real church family. So I was in that West Indian church community. And that was the village, as you say, that was, raising me. So to go from being in that exclusively almost black environment, then to be living here in an exclusively like white Irish environment, it wasn't a hard transition initially, because like I say, I've been coming back and forth my whole life, so I didn't know any different. But it got a wee bit like hard, and sometimes still now hard to stick. Like, you're always having to answer questions. People always want to know, like, what does this mean? Or someone's gonna like every day someone will say something offensive or an offensive joke, and it's just that can get graining and draining some things.
Yeah, no, that's it. Like, I can't imagine, but it is those, like, I don't love the term microaggressions because they're not micro.
Yeah.
It's like continually. So now that you've a wife and 4 daughters, so now as a parent of, do your kids identify as mixed race or black?
Mixed race.
So
I try and tell them that they're black, but
exactly, they're having none of it. Mixed race kids in our society now, you're back in Leonarding community's unreal, like, as you say, but like, how does it feel like raising kids where there is access to the far right, where there is more access to racism, where there is a lack of education, the systemic, or is it grand?
The access has always been there, you know. There's a thing where that ethnic minorities in this country have been dealing with stuff like this from ever. Like, I personally, you know, went to school with people who were racist and know people who are racist, and even, you know, I remember being young, and one of my friends at the time, he was like, I hate black people, apart from the ones that I know. I was like, you serious? He was like, like, you're sweet and all, but see all them ones in the town. So, like, the far right and his racist views is nothing new to black people, but I think it's more shocking to white people, because they're like, I can't believe people are thinking like this, but they don't know about it, because no one's gonna go up to you and say, call you anything racist or be racist towards you if they're the same race as you. Mm-hmm. But now, you and women like you and men like you who have, not even people who have mixed race children or mixed race siblings or mixed race cousins or nephews or whatever, now they become more passionate about the subject because it's directly affecting them, and there's stuff going on that's been going on that they didn't know about. And then now with social media, even like in the early days of Facebook, people I know who I would have talked to would have been putting stuff on like real racist, hardcore stuff on Facebook, and then, but it would have went unnoticed, because like, you were, even as a white person, if you see someone online slapping about black people, mm-hmm. you don't care, because it's nothing to do with me. But once you become, you know, associated with a community, then they're like, hold on, no, they're talking about that black people, but my son's black or my cousin's black, then they get their backup. So, that's just like, it's not, nothing's new. It's not new, like, and the racists the people who are coming out as being racist, or who you see at like these rallies and stuff, or like, it's no surprise. It's no surprise to me anyway.
That's it. And like, I think there's an element of like, when you know better, you do better. So like, you'll probably be familiar with like the shite that I've been dealing with Elliot, which I wasn't familiar with. You're absolutely right. Like, I didn't know. It never affected me. So why would I have bothered? Like, I didn't care. I wouldn't have stood up for people online. But now it's like, part of it is influencing the people to like be an active bystander and understand. But there's an element of like, you know, a couple of weeks ago, he came home from school and the N-word was used towards him. He didn't care. He was like, it was my mate messing around. But then it's that element of like, schools are doing everything, but they're turning an eye on it as well. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but how can you not, at this point?
Do you know what? It's a thing too, because Belfast, it lacks diversity so much, and obviously it's changing now, but over the years, especially with teachers, it's just like what I was saying. If someone used racial, you know, slurs or racial language, they're not offended and they're not affected. So like, it doesn't mean anything to them. Because I can like remember in school, in secondary school, there was a spelling test, and one of the words was Negro. And I always think back, I should have said something. Like, that was one of the spellings. And I remember my teacher, like, reading it, and I could just see the discomfort on her face. It's like, Negro. And
But the still rate of my cement.
I always think that I should have said something, but I was, like, 13 or something, so I can't be, like, friggin' Malcolm X at that age. And then...
yeah.
Another thing, well, I'm just thinking about school stuff where I should have spoke up in my geography class. I don't know, we were talking about different climates and why people look different. And I remember a geography teacher saying, yeah, and people there and they have more Negroid features. And I was like, this is mental. But again, I was the only one, not just in my class, in the whole school. So, like, you're going up against everyone, and then just as a finish, just because you said about your son in school, someone called him the N-word. I remember we were doing drama, and everyone had to make up a song for in the wee groups, and this one group, and the guy was my friend too, but he done this rap, and it was class, but there was a part, and he went. I can remember the whole thing, but I'll get to this part of it. Santa, one of my homies called out, nigga, don't tell me that you're whitey and right. Serious, my nigga, I seen him go by, him and his reindeer like a fly in the sky. And I was like, I was sitting there, like feeling like uncomfortable, but the teacher, then they got an A star for it, and the teacher didn't say anything, but like, that's what I'm saying.
What year is this?
Like
90s?
second year? Or what age are you in second year? What age are you in second year? 13?
13, 14.
So like 2003. So like, so I remember, and the teacher just went, yeah, very good, and they got an A for it, but that's the thing, people aren't offended because they don't even realize it's being offensive. Like, I used to hate anyone saying the N-word around me. See, I love rap music, and if I'm on my own or from my black friends or family, then I would like use the N-word if I was singing along the rap. But if I was with all my white friends, I never say it because I want to be the example. Like, he's not saying it, so I'm not going to say it. But then recently, I'm like, it's used so much in songs. And people aren't trying to be offensive if they're singing along the song. So there's a difference if you're quoting lyrics or quoting a movie than somebody going, hey, you're a fucking nigger. No, like, you have to differentiate between the two. And I felt and I feel that there's so much, like, pressure that you have to speak up and everything. If I was going to attack every single issue, I'd be arguing all day, every day with people because it is ignorance. People don't know when they're being offensive. Mm-hmm. People don't know or what's acceptable and what's not acceptable because they haven't grew up around different communities. Like, it's not just like with black people. Obviously, I'm a black man, so that's all I can talk about from my experience. But what do people say when they're getting a Chinese? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And they're not trying to be offensive. It's just like an accepted term. Like, you know what I mean? So
do you
they
think
don't know
it's
any
accepted?
difference. Well, people don't realize that they're being offensive.
Do you think
they don't talk to Chinese people?
Aye, that's it. No, it's so right. And like, we don't have it here. And then I wonder if generationally, like when I talk to mum and dad about stuff, dad's amazing now, but before he was just like coming out with all that stuff.
Yeah,
I was like, Dad, like, you can't. But then, who am I? You're right. Like, I would be so hypersensitive, and because of the work that I do, it's not just race, it's all like underrepresented, all like identities, perspectives, experiences, all of that. So it's like, you pick your battles sometimes, but then sometimes you're like, you hear someone and you're like, you do know. Like, you do know that you can't make that joke, or like, you know, especially...
It must be, like, difficult for you too, because, like, if you're with people who don't know that you have a black son, and they might say something, and then you're like, because my wife has said as well, people have said things to her, and not knowing that she has mixed race children, and she would crack up because like people think they're in a safe environment where they can talk. Do you experience it?
Like, yeah, but see, before I would have just frozen and got really annoyed and then gone home and like stewed on it and like just told. I've created all these wee like silos of like groups that I can I nearly support groups like. And now I just kind of know how to call it out in a nice way because people like to be nice. So I'm just like, oh, what do you mean by that? Oh, like, but do you know that's probably a wee bit damaging? And if I didn't know them and they're coming out with a microaggression or a slur, I would just be like, I have a son, and, you know, just talk to them like that. And people do feel uncomfortable. But I do think it's about creating a space where like they have the space to be like, I really messed up, because I still mess up. I still say the wrong thing, and like there's language that evolves, and you can't, like, language we use in the 90s for mixed race people, you cannot use that anymore.
And
so
mutts.
yeah, like, and that's the way it goes. And I think cancel culture.
Saying, yeah, when he talking.
Yeah, but people come out with half cast. Like, see, when people say it now, like when I was a
kid, I didn't even know that was a bad
but it
thing
wasn't
to say,
then, I don't think.
I remember being young and my mummy like saying it because he's half caste, but I thought you were saying half class, so I didn't know.
Class.
And then I was like, what is it? And then just as I got older, and then I realised what it meant.
But I don't think anyone knew it was I don't know, maybe, but like. And then I think it's great for learning, and like those, see if I can walk away. Like, I remember doing a session online during COVID, and it was to like 60, 70-year-olds in Mid-Ulster, so like rural north of Ireland, like, and it was all about diversity across the board, which I don't love doing because you're kind of like tiptoeing around bits and pieces, you're not going very deep. But this guy was like, I just hate disabled people. And I was like, but I love that, Tommy, because he was showing up being exactly who he is. There was clearly a space where he felt, because he wasn't being aggressive, he was just like, but I just don't like them. They show up and Strictly Come Dancing, they're now playing sports, and I was like,
playing sports,
how dare they?
Jesus Christ, what's wrong with people?
But now I'm just like, brilliant, because a lot of people think that and won't say it. A lot of people in the workplace, corporate, will be thinking, I'm not going to hire a black person, I'm not going to hire, like, I need to make adjustments, no way. But see, when you create a space where someone is like, I just don't like them, then you can have the conversation. So then you can be like, and see, by the end of it, he wasn't like a disability activist or anything, but he was thinking. Do you know what I mean?
You know, it's the fear of the unknown. And I think the way to combat racism, and see, in this day and age, I don't think there's an excuse, because everyone has smartphones and the internet's small, so you can familiarize yourself, even if you don't know, like, in real life. The internet is real life now. People spend more time on it, so you're seeing that black people aren't the scary thing that you need to hide from and keep them out of the area. But the best way for people to get rid of their racial ideologies is to integrate and familiarize themselves with people. Like, if you lived in a street and there was like Jamaican in one house, African in another house, Pakistani and Indian and Irish and English,
that's so normalised,
then
isn't it?
no one would be racist, because they know the people, and then they would just like use them as a reference. Now, if someone said something about like a black person, all black guys live in my street and they're sound, you know. But some people just choose to keep the blinkers on, and like there's more people as human beings have more in common than they don't, you know.
100%.
And when people say stuff like, "Oh, I don't like black people," but what black people do you know? What do you not like about them? You know, these black people are dealing with the same, you know, emotions that a white person's dealing with. It's just societal pressure is more on black people. And and you know, like, people, I don't know, it just goes so far back to history.
Yeah.
It just trickles down. The blacks are at the bottom, and you know, that just gets taught and taught and taught, and people just don't even realise.
That's it, Tommy. And like all the anti-black, see, since I've been doing this work, like the anti-black messages that we're fed every single day. So it's so in our, like, I would say, I said this before in one of my episodes, I'm more racist than anti-racist, because while I do anti-racism training and I'm aware, like, my conditioning, my DNA, like, I don't know what my ancestors were at, and I do think that you keep parts of that. So it's like, even whenever we were looking at, so I'm part of this, like, white women anti-racism group, right? And it's all about accountability, and like, we share random stuff. But there's this book called The Colour Monster, right? And this is a prime example of, I don't know if your kids, do you have it at home?
No.
So it's like a great book for like teaching about colours. Each colour has a different emotion or like a different thing. And the black one is angry, and it's, you don't like the black one. And all of those, like, when I always think whenever black is associated with anger, with negativity, with fear, like in the language that we use that we don't know the impact of, it's like feeding into that anti-black mentality. So it's being aware of it and seeing it and then taking action. And some people don't care, and that's, some black people don't care, and they're just like, oh fuck, here she goes again, like, just let them enjoy it. But it's about, if we want really to have these inclusive societies that we do want to, yes, go to a rally, but what else are you actually doing? No one knows. Most people want to, but it's when they know. So as much as I'd love to flip and talk about race all day long, comedy. So I don't really do, it's one of those things where I would love to go to more comedy nights because they're so class. And I saw you at the Mothers Against Genocide one last year. Tommy, oh my God, it was so awful. I was going out with this guy, right? And we were going out together for like 7 months, and it was like really problematic in hindsight. But we had a fight on my birthday. It was around this time last year, and he blocked me on my birthday, right, and ghosted me. But I thought that he was like just huffing because he was like a huffer. Wait to hear this though. So we turned up to the Mothers Against Genocide thing, and you were first, weren't you? So you were about to come on. And I turned around, and about 2 rows behind me, he was with another woman. And I was like, and you know, even now when I'm talking about it, my heart is going. And I was like, oh my God. And I'd had like 2 or 3 mojitos or margaritas, and I was like, oh my God. And you come on the stage, and they were behind me, and like, what was my hair looking like? But this is on, I can't run out, and like all of the things going on. And like, I was absolutely heartbroken, like devastated. But see, when you come on, and it really had a huge impact on me, because it was like how comedy can heal you. And like, it didn't, obviously you didn't heal me at that point, but I was like, there's actually a world where like, you can just like, for 20 minutes, well, you went way on, I think you were on for about half an hour, it was amazing. But it was like, you can, like, laughter heals. And like, it sounds so random, but that set had such an impact. And after, I was just like, fuck him, like, I'm just gonna have the crack. And like, that was it. And it still was really painful, and it took months to get over. But like, I'll always remember all of the emotions, because I was laughing and being like, holy shit, and then like, don't look behind me, and then fuck him, and like all this stuff going on. And it was such a good set, because it was so Irish, but it was also so black, but it was so like talking about parenting. And I think you maybe touched on Palestine as well, and you were using it for good on so many levels. And then we spoke after, like, I'm obsessed, and was speaking to Sean and Luke, because they'd work with comedians, like, with the art of comedy. So like, I've done 2 TED Talks, I would do loads of speaking, like, love talking about stuff, but see the thought of like having to be like, not having to be funny, because it's more than that, but like trying to like get a room into your vibe or into your humour. Like, what is the art of comedy, and how did you get into it?
The art, well, I'll tell you how I got into it first.
I start with that, because that was a lot of...
I always was like a joker and all in school and with my friends, and when I was on a boxing team, I was known for being the funny, like, they done like a thing, there was a poll, best dancer, best dressed, worst dressed, all this stuff, and funniest, and everyone was voting for me as the funniest. And then Tyrone was doing a podcast with Sean Haggerty, who's a comedian, and on the podcast, Tyrone said to Sean, Tommy's funny, thinks he could be a comedian. You should get him a gig. And then Sean was like, listen, if you're serious, I'll give you 5 minutes on my show. So he was doing a show up in Coal Island, and Paddy McDonald was headlining it. And Paddy lives not too far from me, so I knew him from before. He's a friend of my daddy's, and so Paddy gave me a lift up, and then on the way I prepared like a wee 5 minute set, and Paddy says to me, look, Tommy, you're a boxer, no one's expecting you to be funny or anything, so if you get a couple of laughs, happy days. If not, like, it doesn't matter, so don't be worrying. And I says to him, we've got this 5 minutes, do you want to hear it or do you want to wait until I'm on the stage? And he went, aye, wait, I'll see you on stage and I'll give you some pointers after. So I went up and done it, killed, and I come off the stage.
Killed,
and he went,
good or bad?
Good.
Oh, right, amazing.
Yeah. If a bad, dead means bad, killed means
Killed,
good.
right, awesome. There we go. Learning loads about language today.
So I come off the stage and Paddy was like, Tommy, that was brilliant. You don't need much more. Do you want to do that in the field?
In the Fela? So the Fela was your second gig?
Third. There was another comedian on the show and he says, do you reckon, so I'd only done 5 minutes, and he had Fintan Harvey says, do you want to do my show next week, do 10 minutes? And I went, right. So then it became a thing. How am I going to lengthen this out, this 5 to become 10? And then so my third gig was at the Feeling, and it was packed out. It was the big seller thing in the Devonish.
And how do you write? So you had is it topics that you were going to talk about in that 5, 10, whatever?
All my material is, I'm glad you said it's so Irish but so black, because that's me, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I try to exemplify, and all my comedy is all based off stuff that's happened to me. You know, it's all real stuff, but you know, obviously embellished a wee bit to make it funnier. But I just go if all the sets that I've got, I just I don't even have to write it down, because it's all things that has happened that I can remember. So for the first while, it's just telling stories that I've told, you know, being funny, if it was in a bar, if it was with a group of friends. But I'm gonna have to probably start writing stuff down soon. But
do you never write it? Do you never have notes, not even in your hand?
Well, nah. I have if something happens in a day, I'll write a wee thing went to the shop, and then that'll right, this is what happened at the shop. But I never have anything written. And then I don't know about the art of comedies. I think I've always had a gift almost for public speaking, because my granddad's 80th birthday. All my, like I said, they're all gospel singers. So everyone got up, they put on a concert, and everyone got up and sang songs. And
you have a famous singer auntie, don't you?
Yeah,
or
Happy Clappers.
That's amazing.
She was happy. Sandra Edwards, shout out man Sandra. She was the lead singer in the Happy Clappers. But so everyone in the family was doing either playing instruments or singing, and I can't sing, so I was like, do you know what, I'll just go up and give a wee speech, just so I get up and just gave a speech about my granddad, how much I loved him, and told weak stories about him. But everyone, and it was in the church, everyone was in stitches in the
seriously?
church. So I was doing stand-up, not even realising I was doing stand-up.
Not nervous or anything?
No. And then I was my cousin's best man at his wedding a couple of years later. And so in the best man speech, everyone was laughing. So I was killed that speech. And then the next year was Tyrone McCarthy's best man. Killed that again. And everyone was, well, that's the best speech I've ever heard. So those were 3 things. And even at my own wedding, I gave a speech and everyone was in stitches. So I already was like had stand-up experience, you could say, without even knowing. What I find now, what I think the art is, or the knack, is when you're talking about yourself but not bigging yourself up. People, the audience, laugh more and engage more. Like if you're, like I talk about the thing that everyone loved. It was my first set was, went to school, there was only a black kid in my class. There was only a black kid in the school. It was like being a Cocoa Pop and a bowl of Rice Krispies. Everyone loved.
Does everyone love that joke?
Everyone loves that joke, and it's because it's relatable. Everyone knows it. Rice Krispies, and then you can imagine one Cocoa Pop in your Rice Krispies.
Because that's what it was, probably. And here, do you think, because it is so authentic, do comedians bullshit?
Some of them do, but the audience can see through it.
That's it.
So if you're just being authentic, like I said, it's not 100,000,000% true, but it's rooted in truth. So you have to be authentically funny, do you know what I mean? And
can anyone be a comedian?
No.
Everyone has, it just fascinates me, and that's why I really want to go, because I think social media is great for like amplifying that, and I do think there's somewhat of an art to it, but I'm not a comedian, so I don't know.
There's people are on social media who are making funny videos all the time, but they couldn't do stand up.
Why not though?
It's just,
is that a gift, or is it something you can learn?
I think it's a gift. You could probably learn it, but I think you've either got it or you don't.
Is that your job now, a comedian?
That's my job. I'm making it my job.
Yeah. And have you ever died?
No, not yet. Touch wood.
Never, touch wood.
I've had a couple like shaky ones, but I've never completely bombed on a stage and died. But all comedians say just prepare because it will happen. But I'm making sure I'm doing everything I can that it doesn't happen.
That's amazing. And so then you stand out probably for, like, it is changing, like the demographic of the North is really changing, of Belfast is, there's great communities, class, we love it. But in terms of like your legacy, because we've talked about writing a book, I am going to do that, by the way, about your story. Probably with kids actually, because I've done a couple of things where like you work with kids and you share all the identity stuff and then amplify someone. What's the legacy that you would want to leave, like, for kids coming after you, any child? Because they are living in a world that can be quite scary and intimidating and a bit nuts. What's your legacy, do you think?
That's I never thought about it. I always, because my life's changing, and from the age of 11 up until like 2 months ago, all I wanted to be was a world champion boxer, and I wanted that to be my legacy. But I always, like I joked earlier about being a 13-year-old Malcolm X, but I read his book when I was like 15, and I always wanted to be, do something for black people and be like known and respected as like a black prolific figure in black history. So when I won a European title, I was the first black Irish person to do it. So I've kind of like made a wee bit of Irish history and black history at the same time. I think with my comedy, it's so new and unheard of. Like you say, that book, there's been black people in this country from the beginning of time, but no one ever hears their stories. Or so with me doing comedy, it's a fresh take on, like, I'm talking about Belfast. Mm-hmm. And I'm a proud West Belfast smick. Like, I don't care what anyone says.
I love it.
I know how people try and talk clear and talk. I do try and talk clear on stage, or else people won't understand me. But I'm proud to be, smacked out from London. Don't care. But I'm giving you the black perspective of Belfast, which hadn't been heard before. So, you know, maybe that could be a legacy to open doors for kids coming through, you know, young black and mixed race kids. Because obviously there's going to be funny people all the time being born every minute. So, yeah, I just want to be, no matter legacy, just the funniest black Irishman of all time.
There you go. You're nearly there. And then one more. What message would you give then to West Belfast or Belfast black or mixed race kids who potentially maybe are struggling with identity, or maybe not even struggling, maybe they just need to hear words from someone who looks and does amazing things like you?
You know, embrace your blackness. Like, don't be afraid to do it. I think there's a lot of I was fortunate that I was born in a big family, and my mother's black, which is not. It's usually like it's more common that people's fathers black, mixed race people. So I was born a black child, kind of, you know, because you're your mother's child. But you have to. It's growing up here. Embrace your blackness, and it doesn't mean that you're like shunning your Irishness, but from what I have experienced in my life, people who've grew up in this country, not just Belfast, they're the whole country, who are mixed race, they try so hard to fit in. And I know it's hard. Want to straighten their hair or get blue contacts, or, you know, just trying. And I went through any difficulties as well, just trying to fit in because you want to be like your friends. But don't be afraid to embrace your blackness and stand out. You're going to stand out anyway. So no matter what you do to try and be like everyone else, you're not going to be. So be proud to be black. Be proud to be Irish. And there's no shame in it. And if something is offensive, if something doesn't sit right with you, don't be afraid to speak up on it, or else you'll be carrying it forever, like me, thinking about the teacher in friggin' second year saying Negro is the spelling, like, you know.
That's it. And yeah, Tommy, you are a legend, and you're already living that legacy, because I know from like talking to black and mixed race kids around the country, including in the south. Really appreciate your time, and I'll definitely come to. Is there any comedy gigs coming up? Actually, this will come out in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, probably. Yeah, so 2 weeks, that takes up to the 30th.
Yeah,
the 30th, I'm up in Lisburn with Sean Haggerty. Funny enough,
brilliant.
Yeah, so I can't remember where it is.
It'll be on your socials.
It'll be on my socials. Yeah,
follow you online. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks for having
a million.
me.
See you later.